Do you think that the fear, because to me there's kind of a link, I do think we have a fear of death and a kind of denial of talking about death. Certainly in the Western culture I was raised in, I know it can be different depending on where you are in the world, but I also, the thing I always noticed as a kid, it was the fear of talking about anything that was emotional or too close to the bone. And I often think that the two intersect. Death and the grief process is such a deep and complex emotional process that I think often you'll see people backing away. You know, I've heard this from friends who are going through grief or going through illness. People actually don't know how to deal with the emotion of the event, sometimes more than the physical happening around the event, whether it's death or whether it's disease. That's often where we come unstuck as a society, I think.
Well, you're talking about emotional intelligence, right? Absolutely. Everything I teach, no matter what it is, I teach emotional intelligence. Because we don't have it. We don't have a language. And emotional intelligence for me, and I apologize, but my goal is to make things sound really easy to understand. And so I don't use a lot of the fancy language I might have learned in graduate school. I try to make it really approachable.
Which is great.
Well, thank you. So with the emotional intelligence, what I look at it as is emotional intelligence has two components. Are you aware of your emotions and how to manage them? And are you aware of other people's emotions and how to manage them? Well, of course, you have to start with your own. You have to know when your triggers are, what things are playing in your mind, what interjected voices, all these. It's quite a vast topic, and it can be a lot of fun to explore. It ties into your beliefs, your fears. So if I can teach emotional intelligence, then I can open the conversation even further, because you can talk to me now about how you're feeling and not just shut down. And I think we do a disservice to children, especially when children witness death in some capacity, and then we don't talk to them about it because the adults are uncomfortable, or no one taught them to talk about it. And I find I get a lot of parents who want me to tell them how to talk to children, which was also inherent in why I wrote the books. I jokingly say they're from ages 5 to adults, because my goal was to write them so adults would know how to process grief with a child.
Well, and in reading the reviews, because your book won several awards and got many reviews, and one of the reviews that really stuck out to me was, paraphrasing, but it was, Edwards is that rare children's author that can reach both child and adult at the same time, which I think is kind of a gift. So let's actually talk a little bit. Well, before we go to the books, you mentioned graduate school. You trained in drama therapy. What is drama therapy for the uninitiated? Because, I mean, I kind of, you know, I have a background in theatre, and I know of drama therapy, but it's not something I've ever really looked into, and I'm curious.
Well, drama therapy is one of the creative arts therapies. Music therapy, art therapy, dance therapy, drama therapy. And it uses the, modality of, acting out stories, if you wish. It can use, lots of mask and theater techniques to physicalize, your issues. We were also trained in the program in other modalities, especially art therapy. I then liked that very much, but wanted to enrich it with a few other things. So I went on and got postgraduate degrees in psychodrama, group psychotherapy, and sociometry. And I used those in Jungian sand tray, which to me is drama therapy in the sand. And what I like about these techniques that I use, we could use puppets in drama therapy. We used anything that allowed a person to express safely or as much from their own perspective as they wanted to. So we call it a distancing technique. My books are a distancing technique. Sand tray can be a distancing technique. Psychodrama, enacting any kind of drama, you watching a drama, distancing technique. Why? Because you're standing probably with me and we're experiencing it together. I'm making sure you're safe. I'm protecting you and thinking about what your triggers might be. And then you can process the feelings that you see in the characters you've placed in the sand, or in the case of the books, there are a lot of questions in the books that say, tell me how Pat 2 feels, or would you like to tell me how you feel? So that's the distancing. You have a choice. You don't have to go right into sharing your personal feelings. And if you can come to understand Pat 2's feelings around his brother dying in this case and other things, then the next time I say, have you ever felt like that? It's a safer space for you to tell me how you felt, because you're not alone. Pat 2 did it.
Yeah, and also, you know, having experienced the sand tray with you, because I was the lucky recipient of a sand tray, and I've never done it before. You know, for anyone watching or listening, it's really fascinating because Di has, you know, you had all of these figures, action figures, and toys, and characters. Some you recognize, and some are plastic figurines that you've never seen before. And the way that you prompted me to kind of lay out my life as I saw it in this sand tray, and then you interpret what I've laid out. It's a really fascinating way of doing it, because it gets you really into that pure child essence state and out of your mind. It's a really fascinating process, and it certainly was helpful to me.
Well, what I like about it is the sand, so people understand there's a box full of sand, and you put your hands in it and you create shapes, rivers, valleys, whatever you feel like. And what's happening there is you're regressing. I'm trying to get you out of this part of your brain that is thinking too much. I want to drop you down to those formative years, especially 0 to 6, when that's all imprinting when we're a child at that age. You know, our brains aren't contextualizing anything. We're just absorbing. And if I can get you there and then ask you questions, you'll start picking things from a much freer space. You're going to probably show yourself things you hadn't thought about. And I just feel it moves people deeper and faster. And in this world we live in, I just want to honor that we all seem to have so little time to take care of ourselves.
And there is an element of fun and play to it, which God knows we need. Like, God knows we always need a dose of fun and play and creativity in anything that we're doing, especially when it can be intense, because not everybody is used to exploring their emotional self, their subconscious self. So I think that's fantastic.